On March 14, 1987, a woman walked alone into a forest carrying only a red suitcase. 3 witnesses saw her enter. None saw her leave. 48 hours later, police officers found the suitcase open in the center of a perfect circle burned into the earth. Inside it, only a torn photograph and a note with 4 words that nobody could translate. Eleanor Ashford's body was never found. But what the police discovered in that clearing completely changed the investigation from a simple disappearance to something that nobody can explain to this day. My name is Your Name, and over the next 25 minutes I'm going to show you evidence that has been hidden for almost 40 years. This is the true story of the disappearance of Eleanor Ashford. Eleanor Ashford was 32 years old when she disappeared. A history professor at a small university in Vermont, she lived an ordinary life, almost invisible. Her colleagues described her as quiet, studious, the type of person who goes unnoticed in a crowd. But Eleanor kept a secret. In the 6 months prior to her disappearance, she had become obsessed with something she discovered in a university library archive. A 17th century manuscript written in archaic Latin that described in detail what the author called the ritual of transference. Harold said Eleanor seemed calm, determined. She smiled when he couldn't answer, got in her car, and headed toward the mountains. The second witness was Emma Pritchard, a woman walking her dog on Blackwood's main trail. She saw Eleanor at 2:47 p.m. because she checked her watch thinking it was late for someone to start a hike alone. She was carrying that red suitcase, heavy, from the way she was holding it. I offered help, but she refused. Said she knew exactly where she was going, that she had an appointment. Emma asked who the appointment was with. Eleanor answered, with someone who has been waiting for 300 years. The third witness was never officially identified, just an anonymous call to police, 2 days after the disappearance. The recording still exists. I saw the woman with the red suitcase. She went into the old part of the forest where those ancient stones are. The translation was disturbing. The voluntary transference is complete, but the strangest part was still to come. Around the burned circle, investigators found 7 stones arranged in the shape of a star. Each stone weighed approximately 50 kilograms. Geological analysis confirmed that those stones were not native to the region. The nearest rock of that type was 120 kilometers away. Someone had carried 750 kilograms of stone to that clearing. But there were no drag marks, no sign of a vehicle, no footprints besides Eleanor's, as if the stones had simply appeared there. The investigation took a different turn when detectives finally examined Eleanor's notes in her apartment. She had filled 17 notebooks with translations, drawings and theories about the ritual of transference. The original manuscript she studied in the library dated from 1687 and was written by a monk named Brother Tobias, who claimed to have witnessed the ritual 3 times. First, total awareness and consent. Second, a location marked by the ancients, where the barrier is thinner. Third, a binding object that remains as proof of voluntary transfer. Eleanor had repeatedly highlighted a specific passage. Those who cross leave behind only half of their image, for half remains in this world as witness and half crosses to the other side. The torn photograph, half a face. But the most disturbing part was on the last page of Eleanor's last notebook. Dated March 13, 1987, one day before her disappearance, I found the location. The stones are already there, exactly as described in the manuscript. They were not placed by recent human hands. They have always been there, waiting. Tomorrow I will discover if Brother Tobias was right. If I don't return, don't look for my body. Look for evidence that I chose this, because I did. Her signature trembled, as if her hand hesitated at the last moment. The investigators faced an impossible question. How could Eleanor have found stones already at the location, if forensic analysis confirmed those stones were positioned less than 24 hours before discovery? The stones were there when Eleanor arrived, according to her notes. But the stones only appeared after she disappeared, according to science. Eleanor Ashford's case was officially filed as an unsolved disappearance in 1989. But something was bothering Detective Sullivan. In 1993, 6 years after the disappearance, he decided to investigate on his own. Sullivan traveled to historical archives in Boston, New York, and Quebec. He searched for similar disappearances. People who simply vanished under strange circumstances without explanation. What he found was terrifying. In 1702, a woman named Sarah Whitmore disappeared in Massachusetts. Witnesses saw her entering a forest. She carried a bag. When they found it, the bag was in the center of a burned circle surrounded by 7 stones. In 1834, a man named Thomas Crane disappeared in Vermont. Same story, burned circle, 7 stones. A note in Latin. In 1921, Margaret Hollis, 1959, David O'Connor, 1968, Ruth Delgado. Sullivan documented 17 cases over 300 years, all in the New England region, all following the exact same pattern. And all disappearances happened at specific time intervals. Sullivan noticed something extraordinary. Every 21 years, more or less, someone disappeared in the same way. If the pattern continued, the next disappearance would be in 2008. Sullivan died of a heart attack in 2007. His files were donated to the municipal library. But before dying, he left a sealed letter with specific instructions. Open only if there is another similar disappearance. In March 2008, exactly 21 years after Eleanor Ashford, a young woman named Rebecca Torres disappeared in New Hampshire. The letter was open. Inside it, Sullivan had written, "If you are reading this, then I was right. This is not a coincidence, it's a cycle. And someone somewhere knows how it works. Look for the circle of 7. They know. They have always known. Nobody knows what the circle of 7 is. But Rebecca Torres' investigation revealed something Sullivan never discovered. Trail cameras had been installed in the forest where she disappeared. One of them captured something impossible. The recording lasts 47 seconds. Rebecca Torres enters the frame at 3:33 p.m. carrying a backpack. She walks directly to the center of an empty clearing, stops, looks up as if hearing something. Then she opens the backpack, takes out a photo of herself and tears it in half, puts half back in the backpack. 3 seconds later, the image distorts, like interference on an old TV. When the image returns to normal, Rebecca is no longer there. But the backpack is on the ground, and around it, 7 stones that weren't there before. The recording was analyzed by FBI forensic video experts. Official conclusion: no evidence of editing or digital manipulation. Origin of distortion unknown. Physical inconsistencies unexplained. Rebecca's case was also archived. But here's what was not publicly disclosed. When investigators opened Rebecca's backpack, they found an additional object she wasn't carrying when she entered the forest. A silver medallion, exactly like the one found in Eleanor Ashford's suitcase. Carbon dating analysis confirmed that both medallions were made at the same time, late 17th century. How could Rebecca have a 300-year-old object that appeared in her backpack after the disappearance? The most logical answer would be that someone placed it there. But the area was under surveillance. Nobody approached the backpack between the moment of disappearance and discovery by police. The medallion simply appeared, as if it had come from the other side. Today, in 2026, 39 years have passed since Eleanor Ashford's disappearance. If the 21-year cycle continues, the next disappearance should occur in 2029. Blackwood Forest still exists. The clearing where Eleanor disappeared has become a pilgrimage site for the curious and paranormal researchers. The 7 stones remain there in exactly the same position. Several attempts were made to remove them. All failed. In 2012, a construction team tried to move the stones using heavy machinery. All machines suffered simultaneous mechanical failures when approaching the circle. In 2017, researchers from the University of Vermont conducted geomagnetic studies at the location. The instruments detected anomalies they couldn't explain. Magnetic fields that oscillated without apparent source. Temperature variations of up to 15 degrees inside the circle. One of the researchers, Dr. Alan Hendricks, reported something disturbing. When we placed high-sensitivity microphones in the center of the circle, we captured sounds. Human voices, whispers. We couldn't identify words, but the pattern was clear. Multiple voices speaking simultaneously, as if there was a conversation happening at a frequency we can't fully access. The recordings were made available online. You can listen to them. They're disturbing. Jennifer Morris, Eleanor's former roommate, is still alive. She's 71 years old now. When I interviewed her for the last time in 2023, she told me something she couldn't forget. The night before Eleanor disappeared, she hugged me. It was strange because we weren't very close. She said, "Thank you for not trying to stop me." I didn't know what she was talking about. Now, I know. Jennifer paused, looking out the window. Sometimes I dream about her, and in the dream she's okay. She's somewhere I can't see clearly, but she's okay. And she's with other people, all those who disappeared. They're together, somewhere between worlds. I asked if she thought Eleanor was dead. I don't know. Maybe death isn't the right word. Maybe she simply crossed over. Eleanor Ashford's case remains officially unsolved. No body was found, no suspect identified. No conventional explanation makes sense. But perhaps the truth is exactly where Eleanor left it, in her own choice. The voluntary transference is complete. Could it be that there are places in this world where the laws of reality are more fragile? Where people can choose to cross over to something beyond? Or could it be that Eleanor Ashford and all the others were victims of something much darker that we still don't understand? In March 2029, perhaps we'll have another chance to find out. If someone else disappears, if the cycle continues, and if this time we have the courage to truly investigate what's happening in that clearing. Until then, the question remains that nobody wants to ask out loud. If you found real evidence that there is another side and a way to get there voluntarily, would you have the courage to cross over? Eleanor Ashford did. If you know of any similar case or have information about the Circle of Seven, leave it in the comments. Stories like this need to be told. Subscribe to the channel for more investigations of unsolved mysteries. And turn on notifications, because in 2026, if something happens, you want to know. Until the next case. And remember, not every disappearance is a crime. Some are choices we don't understand yet.